right, let's think about this particular chapter, and this is happiness. So, as you might imagine, Solomon has a lot to say about happiness and how vaporous it is, really. So let's begin. This is my page 12. I don't know what page it is on yours. Okay, 13. Well, there you go. All right. Someone's right with me here. Way to go. All right. So even though, okay, so what we had here is Solomon had a test, and his test was, what was Solomon's test, basically? Well, how did he test to find out nothing's good? He tried everything. That was his test. He tried everything. He went through all the avenues of life, and he explored them, whether it be wealth and, or we might even say wine, women, and song. He just went through all of those avenues of life to explore how to become happy and what is really the secret of life, the secret of living. So what did he determine? Well, it's all useless because we have, number two, it's incurable vanity. It's all vain. It's emptiness is what it is. It's all just emptiness. So he warns us about that. So now we come to happiness, how to achieve happiness and how to be happy. So the first thing is, he just tells us right off the bat, he says, in spite of the fact that we're not going to be able to understand everything that goes on, and by the way, that's an important portion of this entire text. We don't understand all the things that occur in life. There are going to be injustices. There are going to be wrongs that are committed. There are going to be people who do things that do not receive retribution that you think they ought to receive. We're experiencing that right now in our society, aren't we? In our government, we see that. We think that there should be retribution right now, and there should be. But that does not occur, and there are wrongs that are being committed. So his answer to all of it, he says, you know, it's going to escape us to be able to justify or to have a just life in this life. It's going to escape us, and we're not going to be satisfied with how things are going to turn out. It's just not going to be. Now, I want to stop here and make a point here, and that is, if we go into a situation and we have expectations that are exceedingly high, but the reality is very low, what does that set us up for? Disappointment, failure, depression. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm going to tell you that's what happens with a lot of people. All right, let me give you an illustration. And I don't want to be unjust to this company, but remember Amway? Amway, you don't remember Amway? Okay, when I was in college, everybody, okay, sell Amway, and everybody's going to be a millionaire, blah, 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 blah. Okay, all you do is go sell, and then next thing you know, this pyramid system you're going to be wealthy. So all the kids, everybody, we went to the meetings. I didn't ever sell it. I thought, I don't know, but a lot of them did. A lot of people at Harding University, okay, we're going to go sell Amway. The reality is what? Well, not only that, not a good product, but you're going to be selling soap and toothpaste, bathroom commodities. Is what you're going to, okay, but people don't necessarily buy from you because they go to the store and get those. And if the product is not exceedingly better, then there's not really a reason to do it. And what happened? They had a tremendous dropout rate. Tremendous. Because their expectations were very, very high. Communists have noticed this to be the case also. For example, the communists that overturned the Soviet Union and the czars, such as Vladimir Lenin and so forth, and those individuals, and Leon Trotsky, they recognized that communism was not going to be the utopia that they had promised. They promised utopia. That's what socialism still tells us. That's why we're redistributing wealth. It promises utopia. But utopia was not going to come, and they knew it. So they began to teach their people the reality was you're going to have injustices and we're going to have problems along the way. Now, of course, we're disagreeing with communism entirely, but they recognized the psychology of man, that if your expectations are very high and the reality is here, then then you have dropout, you have depression, you have people that quit. Here's another example. Do you know how many preachers today are not preaching but are selling insurance? I don't know, but the number is vast. How did that happen? Because you think you come into a community, you think I'm going to preach, people are going to see the truth, I'll put articles in the paper, and they're going to love the truth, they're going to obey it. But what happens? You have a congregation that's small. If you're going to preach boldly, you're going to have people who are going to oppose you, and they're going to be locked in to error. They're going to dig in, and they're no, I'm going to defend Baptist doctrine. I don't care what you say. My daddy was a Baptist. I'm going to be a Baptist. That's all there is to it. Okay, so now what do we do? We might as well we put a wall up. We don't. So now what? Well, it is a signal for a lot of preachers to become very depressed. Do you know there are a lot of preachers that are depressed because of this? Because they find out you can't even convert their own congregation, let alone the community. They can't get the congregation to attend services, let alone baptize people out here. No. And it sets you up. Your expectations are really, really high, but you go in and reality is way down here. So what's the answer to all of this? You better go in with your eyes wide open. That's the answer. That's the answer. You start preaching and you know that people are not going to obey the gospel frequently. There may be many people that do, but most of the people are going to spurn it. And most people in congregations are here simply because they're going through the motions of religion. That's just the reality. And 10% of the people are doing 90% of the work. 10% of the people are doing 90% of the giving. That's the reality. And I tell that to preachers, and I was told that when I started preaching. I didn't believe it, but I do. And that's the way it has always been. And it will never be different. Well, whatever the cause, well, we'll just talk about the Super Bowl right now then. I tell you what, here's what's going on in Oklahoma. Bob Lynn, who is of the Baptist organization, put out for all the Baptist preachers, and all of them joined together, many of them, we're going to boycott the Super Bowl. We're going to boycott it. They went to the state legislature to boycott it. We don't want it. That's why I bring it up, because that's today. Why? Because the halftime show with Bad Bunny is going to push transgenderism and Mexican culture on America, and says we're going to do it all in Spanish as well. And he says you're going to learn Spanish, and you're going to learn it in the next 5 years, or you're going to suffer. That's what he says, and he's pushing transgenderism. So all across Oklahoma, the preachers. So the point is, people like that kind of. Well, I like it. I like football. Well, when are we going to draw a line? Say, you know what? I'm not going to take transgenderism trying to cram down my throat. I'm not going to take it. You know what? This is interesting. The commissioner of the NFL, what's his name? Roger Goodell. Yeah, okay. They had massive protests writing to him, and conservatives and Christian people and denominational people across the country back in October, November. They said, please do not do this and assault Christianity with this halftime show. What did he say? I don't care. Doing it anyway because Bad Bunny is popular. And he's popular around the world. So the point is, when you get out and you preach, and sometimes you don't know where to draw the line necessarily. Okay, watch the football game or not. Okay, I understand. But the reality usually is way down here, and the expectations are high. And that's exactly what Solomon's all about right here. He says, if you're thinking happiness is going to be this way, And that way, and caused by this, you are in for a rude awakening. That's the point. So that's introduction. All right, so let's look at it. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 9, and then we're going to go to chapter 11. And then we're going to go back to chapter 2. So start in chapter 9, verses 4 through 6. Ecclesiastes, that's right. The point, remember, in all of it, we cannot ultimately know what's going on with God's providence. So, chapter 9, verses 4 through 6. Who has that open there, ready to read it? Go ahead, Dan. All right, so what's the main point? What would we say the main point here is? Okay, yeah, this is a sad existence here, but what? Better be alive than dead, first of all. We're happy to be here. We're happy to be alive, better alive than dead, because the dead don't know anything, that is, under the sun, that is, what's going on here. They don't, by the way, can you stop there and notice that? He's talking about the dead, those who have gone to the land of the dead, don't know anything going on under the sun. What? What does that say? What does that strike against? Right. So what you're saying, I hope everyone heard that. That's a great comment. And that is, Betsy, that, okay, they are not aware of what's happening here on earth. And why? And she pointed out, why would they need to know that? Because that would bring sadness and sorrow. But whether or not that's true, that it would bring sadness and sorrow, we are told that they don't know what's going on under the sun. And there is no need for people to say, well, I'm going to pray to my father, my ancestor, or we're going to put someone in sainthood and they're going to overshadow me and oversee me. No, there's none of that. So they don't even know what's going on here. But we do know it's better to be alive than it is to be dead. Dan? I saw you smirk a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, we say that, I guess, figuratively speaking, but in truth, they don't know. There's not, and why would they be interested in this? Okay, so that's the first point. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 11. This is verses 7 and 8. This basically strikes the same theme. Light is sweet. It is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. That is to say, I'm happy to be alive. I ask people, how are you today? I'm here. I'm glad to be on this side of the turf. Okay, that's what we say. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. Just be happy. And let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity. That is to say, on this earth, everything here is vanity. And the time that you're here compared to the time that you'll be on the other side is very, very small. So just be happy that you're here. And that's the point here when he talks about happiness. So it is not to say, well, I'll be happy when I have so much money. I'll be happy when I have so much power. Or when we get the government overturned, as people are trying to do now, turn it upside down. I'll be happy then. No, that does not satisfy. What satisfies is we are recognizing that we're alive and we're able to be here and enjoy one another's company. So that's how he begins this whole section on happiness. Let's look at, this is chapter 2. So this picks up another aspect of the theme. And the theme is that God has provided, because this is a sad existence, He has provided compensation to you. He's given you compensation. Because we're all turning older. We're all getting grayer. We're breaking down. We're having bodily issues. We're having, don't we? We all have that. We have cataract surgeries. We have, we have heart surgeries. We have knees replacement. We have, I can't go out and do what I used to do and all that. But he says, okay, I'm giving you some compensations in life. And these compensations are designed to make you happy. So what are the compensations? So read 2, I think was it 2 and 24 what I called out? Read that one out. if you have that, 2 and 20. I love that passage because it tells us that happiness is found in our eat, our drink, and in our what? Work makes people happy. When we have in our society become a socialistic society, taking from some and giving to the others, we have devalued work and we've curtailed work. So we have automatically turned things upside down as far as happiness is concerned. People are happy when they are working, when they're able to work. That's correct. When you have a purpose. God, this is God's gift to you that you, Dan, are able to go work. And when I walk around the streets and I see Marcy out there mowing the yard, I think she's out there. She's out there with one more than another. Dan comes home and he's fixing this. I take a walk sometimes and I see some of those things. I say, but this is what makes us happy. We're able to work and take care of the things that we do have. And so we eat, we drink, we just enjoy what we have. Simple pleasures. Isn't that right? The simple pleasures and able to work. That is really what makes us happy. Jam. What is it? Okay. I don't know if anybody heard her in the back. Ann, did you hear that? Jan says, another key to that is go to bed. Right. And that's a good point, but people need to recognize that as they enter into the profession of whether it be preaching or whatever, and that is to recognize that truth and don't have your expectations so high. The point is have a reality check of what this is going to be about. So Jeremiah, for example, I can't help but think about Jeremiah the prophet. Jeremiah was told, go preach. And he said, you are not going to convert anybody. They are not going to listen. So your question then would be what? Why preach? What's the answer? Because it is right. Do it. Preach it. Because it is right to do. That's why. Because I want them to hear the Word of God. Whether they obey it or not, I want them to hear it. It is right to uphold the standards of God. They will be without excuse. That's right. And people have the right to choose, and so they have to know. They have to know it. That's right. So that what Dan said just keyed me on that, thought about that. Just that's exactly the way. So we have to stand for truth because it is right, not because we're promised it will be successful, not because we're promised it will make us a lot of money or popularity, or that I'll be Brother Big standing up on stage. It just because it's right to do, and that's what we need to recognize. So that's how Solomon puts it here. So let's look at this chapter. I think it's chapter 3, the next one. Chapter 3, this is interesting, in chapter 3 and verse 22, 3 and 22. Now in this, I don't know if you have in your book, he has here the Moffat translation. Is that what he has in yours? Oh, did he? Okay. Well, it's on. Let me see. Well, I don't know. I don't know. We'll just start here. So this is chapter 3, verse 22, and this is from what he calls it's a Moffat translation by a man by the name of James Moffat. He said, "So I saw the best thing for man was to be happy in his work. This is what he gets out of life." Now I don't know how 3 and 22 reads in mine. Or here, this is ESV. This is his lot. Be happy in your work. This is your life. This is your lot in life, just to be happy in your work. Well, if we're not happy in our work, then that's going to be very drag, isn't it, on our family, upon ourselves. Just enjoy what you do and be satisfied with that. Yes, sir. Right. And that's a good way to think about it. Keep trucking because it is this source of provision, and it gives you purpose. And I like that word that you used. It gives us purpose in life, and that's so important. So that brings to mind many people, what happens when they retire? They lose. A lot of people do. They lose the purpose and they pass. You've known people like that. And so a lot of people, after they retire, they go back to work. Some people go back to work, don't they? Yeah, but you know what? That's because Jim retired, he's back to work. I don't know all the causes of that, but you know what? When people retire, Nita's back to work. So Nita retired. She enjoyed being at home, but she's back to work. We needed that anyway, but the point is it does give her a purpose. It gives Jim a purpose. It gives people a purpose to move forward. What happens frequently, people retire, they sit at home, and they vegetate, and they die. And you know, I think of so many illustrations I can give you, and you know them yourselves. They retire in 6 months in the grave. It's like, wow, what happened? I had no idea that was coming. So, what? You're good. Yeah. Well, you're good because you're making Betsy work, and that's great. Yeah. Let's go to chapter 5, verses 18 through the chapter here. Chapter 5, verses 18 through verse 20. Someone read that if you will. Give you a chance to. Now, isn't that interesting? He said, this is the gift of God. The gift of God to work. How is it that we want to rob people of that gift by a society that redistributes wealth? It just overturns the very purpose for which people, purposes that people can find. Let's go to chapter 8, verse 15. Let's notice another one. I commend joy, for man has no good thing under the sun, but eat, drink, be joyful, for this will go with him in his toil through all of his days of his life that God has given him under the sun. And then one other, chapter 9, there's one other element that God says, here's something else that you can have enjoyment in. Chapter 9, 7 through 9. Some one of you take that one up. Well, I missed it. 9 and 9. 9 and 9. Oh, what? Live joyfully with the wife that you love all the days of this. What? God has given us marriage to compensate for the challenges and the sadnesses of life. This life is a sad existence. We're all going to the grave, and we'll be there sooner than later. And in 50 years from now, this congregation will be composed of other people or will not be here at all. We'll all be gone. So what are we to do? Okay, enjoy work, enjoy your eat and drink, providing for others, and enjoy the wife of your youth, whom God has given you under the sun. That's the portion. That's what God has given you to enjoy. And then whatever, now this is what my grandmother used to say to me when I was sleeping late on Saturday morning. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. Get up and get out there and mow the yard. Get out there and do it. For there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom and shield to which you are going. So in other words, get out there and enjoy your work. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all of your might. That is, put yourself into it. So that's the compensations that we have. All right, comments, thoughts? Yes, sir. Oh, well, maybe so. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is kind of a curious question, though, isn't it? Yeah, like, okay, when did he write this, you know? Because he certainly didn't follow his own advice later in life. Yeah. Yeah. So which is a good lesson in itself? You can be the wisest of the wise and still, all right, well, I was going to say fall into sin, but you said fall off the wagon. Yeah, you can still fall. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. Solomon. All right, let's go on here. This is so interesting about some of the other things he tells us. Let's look at chapter 6, verses 8 and 9. So he's advising against, or he's advising accepting your lot, avoiding excessive ambition. I think this is good because this kind of strikes us where we are. Don't have excessive ambition. This is chapter 6, verses 8 and 9. Some one of you picked that up. So in one translation that he uses in this text that I have, better aim at what lies in view than hanker after dreams. But indeed, all is frustration and labor lost. Everything is labor lost. Instead of hankering after dreams, just enjoy what you have. And that's what life is about, being satisfied. So isn't that right? Isn't that interesting? So it does help us. I think it should help us at least in thinking about the psychology of man and what's important to make man happy. And he's given it to us right here. Simple pleasures of life. Eat, drink, homes, work, labor, your wife, husband, having a home. That really is what satisfies the person, isn't it? That's really the satisfaction of life, just having a nice, stable home. So let's go on to the next one. I think that's we're ready for this one. So this one is number 4, unsolvable mystery. There is, so in other words, why is life this way? We ask these questions, why is life like this? Why is it this way? You know, a lot of people, young people say, why this way? Well, he tells us, don't be asking the whys, because this is the way it is. This is what happens. It's an unsolvable mystery. So let's begin with chapter 6, verses 11 and 12. The more words, the more vanity. And what is the advantage to man? For who knows what is good for man while he lives the few days of his vain life which he passes like a shadow? Who can tell man what will be after him under the sun? That is, we don't even know. Then he goes on in chapter 7. Now let's just go to the next chapter, verses 23 and 24. All this I tested by wisdom. I said, I will be wise. But it was far from me. That which has been is far off and deep, very deep. Who can find it out? Or who can master it? Some translations have it. And then let's go to chapter 10. We'll skip a couple of these. Let's go to chapter 10, verse 14. A fool multiplies words, though no man knows what is to be. Who can tell what will be after him? What's the point of all of this? Well, the point is, as he said, unsolvable mystery, but we're not going to be satisfied with the things of this life and accumulation of goods, because after all, we're leaving it to the people after us, and how things are going to take place later. That's really what's going to take place. And what will become of what we have accumulated? What will become of our family? I don't know. And we won't know. So the point is, as he draws the conclusion, chapter 12, verse 13, he said, you better remember this. Here's the whole sum of the matter. What is it? Fear God. Keep his commandments. This is the whole of man. That's all of it. That's it. Just do this, because there's not going to be a compensation otherwise. And he speaks about judgment, which is number 5. So we'll get that in real quickly as we just finish this up, this chapter. He said there is a judgment that's going to be, and this judgment is something that we need to be prepared for. So this is chapter 11, verses 9 and 10. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth. Let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. But know that for all of these things, okay, here's what you're doing. God's going to bring what? Judgment. You're going to be judged. So remember that. That's the ultimate. You're going to be judged. So the whole of man is to fear God, keep his commandments. All right. And that's what Solomon forgot as he plodded along the way. And he knew better. He even told us how to do it. But he himself let his own foot stumble, didn't he? So sad. All right, any other thoughts on it? Here's the reality, and you better be careful too. Fear God, keep his commandments. This is the whole of man. And some translations have the word duty in there, but I think it's simply the whole of man, all of man. Simply fear God and keep his commandments. Yeah, that was okay. But what we need to note is this is Solomon's test. That's what this is all about, what to expect from life. All the way through it, this is what to expect from life. And you're not going to find expectations that we think. Instead, you better be mindful of this. And that's the conclusion of the matter.